Yeah, I think right now the world is in a position where we have this perfect storm. We have the financial crisis, we have the poverty crisis, we have the environmental crisis. And that's going to just progressively make the environmental crisis going to progressively make all the other issues worse and worse. So our strong belief is that we don't have to save the world, we actually have to reinvent the world and figure out how we come up with unique solutions to solve the scale of the problems that we're facing right now. And we really believe that a business has to play a huge role in the response to that. So what we really focus on is how do we harness all of the entrepreneurial energy across the Virgin Group and the other entrepreneurs we work with to look at issues through a whole new lens. So how do we connect people and entrepreneurial ideas to really make change happen? I think, again, with the scale of the problem, women, men, everyone has to be the people that are driving change in the world. I think women in particular, from what I've seen, again, no serious research data on this, but from what I've seen so far, one of the things they bring to the table, which is so important right now, is the ability to collaborate. Because if we don't break down the silos between government, business, and the NGO sector, which is how we respond to all the crises right now, we're never going to be able to scale the response. And I think from what I've seen to date, women tend to be great collaborators and bring parties together. So I think there's a real opportunity for women to bring that skill to bear. And I think probably the second really exciting thing about women is many women are on the front lines and they face the issues every single day. And 99% of the time they know what the solution is. They just need the resource to solve it. So I think women coming forward right now with entrepreneurial ideas is a really exciting point in time in history. Well, I think the depletion of natural resources is the greatest challenge we will ever face in our lifetime. And when we started looking at what we could do to get behind this issue, we found a few things. We found one is that there was hundreds of great organizations doing wonderful things, but they weren't yet collaborating in a significant way in many cases. I think the second thing we found is there was lots of national responses or individual organization responses, but not yet truly global responses to what obviously is a global issue. And then I think the third thing, there was a significant lack of businesses as part of the solution, yet they have been part of the problem, particularly since the Industrial Revolution. So we sat back and thought about what could we create that was an entity that would help with those three things. And that's where the Carmorum concept came up initially. And then using that entity to be an independent body, so we got together 10 entrepreneurs that helped fund it. So it wouldn't be branded with anyone's brand, it's a totally independent organization. And then it could then focus on how it becomes a catalyst of bringing parties together and focusing on true market-based solutions to reducing carbon. I think probably the first and most fundamental success is that it's taken something that has been positioned as almost a challenge or a difficulty to date and turned it upside down and created it into one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetime for entrepreneurs. So I think that's something, just that simple messaging it started to do. I think the other thing that it's been able to do, again, because it's this independent body, is act as its collaborators to start to bring together different organizations and really almost scale the great work that's happening out there rather than duplicate and recreate something. And I think the third thing is just some of the battles that it's been working on. So the shipping battle, I guess, to me is a perfect example of where it went in, it was an independent body, brought together the shippers, the shipping customers, the port authorities, the NGOs, the technology companies, to start to look at solutions. And within that process, what they found is there was really something simple missing, which was information. So they worked with a partner to create the shipping efficiency website, because there was no way for government, for customers to understand which ships were actually efficient. So now someone can get online and find out of thousands of ships which ones are efficient. So it's those types of going in and breaking down market barriers and then figuring out ways to get capital flowing in, so then technology companies and others can upgrade the ships. And that's just one example of some of the battles they're working on. I think that the beauty of the Carmorum is that it's positioning this as a wealth creation opportunity. So it's not getting businesses to look at this as, I'm going to commit a percentage of my profit for not-for-profit or philanthropic activities. It's getting them to rethink their investment strategies and think about, how can I use this opportunity to scale change but also create great opportunities for my business. And I think that's a really exciting thing they've stimulated. Like just being at their conference today, creating climate wealth, is just it was a brilliant opportunity to see all these entrepreneurs coming and starting to think on different streams, whether that be energy efficiency, whether that be shipping. How can they create businesses that are going to scale and drive change? And again, with the scale of the issue, that's what we need right now. one of my passions for many, many years now is how do you radically change the way the business and social sector work together. And I kind of got here to a point that was kind of a roundabout way, but I think there's probably 3 pivotal points in my life that made me want to go in this direction. One was I had been working for a company in the US and decided I was going to go save the world, quit my job, and landed as a Vista volunteer in Center City, Chicago, working with homeless teenagers. And I quickly learned 3 things there. The first thing is I certainly wasn't going to save the world, and I was actually going to learn a hell of a lot more from them, these kids that had lived thousands of lifetimes in their short years from living on the streets. The second thing was not one of them wanted to be on the streets. They were forced there due to circumstances at home, due to the way we have set up our systems. And then I think the third thing I learned is how screwed up we were as a society, that we were letting 2 million young people live on the streets. So that experience really taught me about how to scale a response to that issue. You needed the governments to change what they were doing from a systems perspective. You needed businesses to be creating opportunities for these young people, and you needed the NGOs to be looking at how they could work together to scale the response. So I think that was my first kind of light bulb moment of how the business and social sector can work together. And probably the second one was I've been really lucky to work in a number of different countries helping start up mobile phone companies. And I saw again and again, whether that be in Colombia, Bulgaria, Africa, or Asia, that you'd go in and you'd set up a mobile phone company. In a couple of years, we'd be successful, and then you'd go to the next one. And at the same time, in many of those countries, I saw the same social issues and environmental issues with great, great work happening on the front lines, but totally in isolation and not going to scale. So again, that was kind of my second moment of why can't we work in a different way with the social and business sector to start getting things to go to scale. And I think the third thing that brought me to this path was I was working for MTN in South Africa, and we were just about to launch a prepaid phone service. And so we got all this feedback from research companies, everyone saying, don't launch it, you're never going to have any customers. And literally within a month, we had our whole annual target. And so we went down into the townships to find out what was happening, why was this happening. And we saw hundreds of entrepreneurs who had set up briefcase phones in different trailers, just selling calls on the corners of the township. And it was, again, a huge light bulb moment as if you give people the tools, they will actually then build their own path and build their own way. So those 3 points, I think, have got me really passionate about that change in the business and the social sector. How do you get them to work together? And then I was fortunate enough to be working for Virgin in Australia, and with their mobile company, and went to my board to say, I want to go back to do something that's going to be doing this, and Rich at the same time wanted to start a foundation. So that's kind of the genesis of Virgin Unite, and that kind of essence of how do you change the way that business and social sector work together. I think along the way in different countries, there's been different moments where you've had to break through that barrier. I'll never forget in northern Nigeria, we were doing this project around fistula, and we had brought in all the religious leaders together, and we had all the young women were behind a curtain in this group session, and one of the leaders in the religious sector there gave a presentation, and he said, and we're very fortunate to have the CEO of Virgin Unite with us. And so he turned, and I stood up, and he said to the whole group, and oh my God, she's a woman. And I think that again was one of those moments where you think, okay, it was fantastic, because afterward he came and talked to me. And so, I guess I've been very fortunate. I think in Virgin I'm really lucky, because you don't face necessarily gender obstacles. I think the biggest obstacle you face there is how entrepreneurial you are, and how you can really work with this in an entrepreneurial engine that moves really quickly. And so my biggest obstacle probably in the last several roles has been one more about there's not enough hours in the day to get what you need done. So I've seen, and I also have seen in the many different markets I've worked in, that I'm starting to see that shift in women to start to take incredible leadership roles and bringing those new skills to bear, whether that be collaboration or a new way of looking at things. So there's a few things that can be done. I think first and foremost is making celebrities out of those women that are already out there doing it, like yourself, or like Wangari Maathai, like Jacqueline Novogratz at Acumen, who years ago had started looking at social change, and now she's driving things like putting funding into Husk Power or Delight Design. So she's starting to take these social enterprises that are driving change in the environmental and social sector and starting to scale them. So I think it's how do you start making those people celebrities in the world so that young girls will want to become like those women. And I think the second thing is really just going out and building opportunities for them to understand that these are the biggest opportunities of our lifetime. I think this next generation that's coming up, building businesses that are going to change the world, is going to be a tremendous opportunity for them. So it's how do you communicate that message to young people in schools? And I think probably third, it's how you hook them up with mentors. And we've been doing some great stuff in the US with Student Launch and other foundations to look at how do you start getting girls excited about science, technology, engineering, and math education. And with Virgin America, we're doing some fun stuff where we've actually got some of the pilots mentoring young people, young females and males, on how they can get into that sector. So I think it's just showing them that model and getting them open to that, bringing those opportunities to them. I'd give them a message that they need to go out there and really find out who's doing some great stuff and learn about the opportunities. Don't just go by what it says in the textbooks, because I think sometimes the education system we have is years behind where the opportunities are. And I think what young people need to think about today, again, is not how we go out and save the world, but how we reinvent it, and how do they use that spirit of entrepreneurialism to make sure that we stop depleting our natural resources, to make sure that we're not letting people die on the other side of the world because they can't have access to a $1-a-day pill. So how can they come out and be those change agents that really transform the way we live today?